Hey guys, this is the Revolving Battle Fox here, and I wanted to hopefully make just a quick video, or at least fairly quick video, on why I stopped collecting statues and buying statues and whatnot. If you've been a part of my videos for the last 2 or 3 years, you would see that while I wasn't a hardcore statue collector, I really did enjoy some statues, and I've had several video game statues and stuff like that of the sort. And there was even a point where I invested a couple $100s, several $100s in advertising to get a certain statue line made for like a certain company. So yeah, I really enjoyed statues, and it was something that I did as a hobby. Collected statues, looked up statues, joined statue groups, discussed statues, but eventually that just kind of faded away as a desire in my life. And I wanted to just hopefully briefly talk to you about the several factors that kind of led me to this conclusion. So first I wanted to talk about, and before I start, let me just say this is out in this video. I'm just really going to speak from my personal experience, as I can only talk or speak for myself. I'm not trying to bash people who collect statues or whatnot. Certainly not. Do your thing. Statues, I think they're great. And if you are an avid statue collector, cool. But this is just pretty much speaking from my experience only. But with that being said, let's hop into it. So one of the first things I've noticed, at least for me when I've gotten into statue collecting, is there is a tendency for me to want to try and keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Keep up with the Joneses. So obviously when I was in the statue collection or collecting, I wanted to share my love and interest with various people. So one of the first things I did was join a group, but that talked about statues and just updates on statues and the latest statues they're coming out with. So I did that for a while, and I know it's a great group. I actually had to kind of force myself in a way to leave the group today. It was slightly emotional for me, but one of those things I'll kind of get over, hopefully. But just in that group, and not just that group, but just any group you join, when you have such an expensive hobby, there is a tendency to want to keep up with the Joneses. Because while I don't want to say it becomes a pissing contest, as in like I have the money to afford all of these statues, look at my expensive statue collection, look at all the space I have to store them, and I'll get into space later, because that's a big thing too. But definitely when you're in these groups or you're in these forums, there's definitely a tendency to want to show off. And like I said, while it's not a competition, people buy and collect at their own rate, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. There is a tendency there to want to be in the spotlight, even if it's like for an hour or 30 minutes. Like, oh, I saved up this money to get this awesome, amazing statue piece. Like, I remember this game or this anime from my childhood, and it reminds me of it, or this series changed my life, and now I have this statue to look at to remind me of the life change, and I just really feel so happy. And now this is complete, and this section of my room, I've been wanting this statue for years, or I paid full price for this statue, or I put down a down payment. It's stuff like that. And part of it, some people, that while they do feel like that, I felt like that in the past, a lot of it I think is just for the attention, is to get the likes, get the hearts, to get the soft felt comments. And I'm not saying this is all for show, but there is a tendency to want to show off in that regards. I certainly found myself doing that. And then yeah, there were times I felt sad if I didn't have the money to afford, or the space to afford, every single statue that I wanted. And it was kind of get me down to see other people be able to define space and to get these statues with fairly somewhat of an ease and whatnot. And, there, like I said, there's a tendency to want to keep up with the latest stuff, to be involved, because if you're not really involved with the latest stuff, then you can't really be engaged into a conversation. And in a way, it's like family, and that's good. And while I believe some people needed that, I felt like I probably needed that at the time. It could be really hard once you get into a certain point to just take a step back and be like, whoa, do I really need this stuff in my life? Thankfully, I didn't get into collecting too many giant statues, but when I would take a break from just like statue discussions in certain groups and forums and whatnot, I realized that my desire for certain statues I wanted, that I might not be the biggest fan of in the series, but it was a cool looking statue and it looked cool in my room. I noticed that those desires slowly kind of went away. They were like in the back of my head, like out of sight, out of mind, something like that. That's what you call it. So out of sight, out of sight, out of mind. If I'm not thinking about it and it's not constantly in my face, then guess what? There's not really much of a need for it. As opposed to being on these groups every day, reading about it, seeing other people's comments, rereading comments, and sometimes you see the same comments and the same posts for the fifth time in an hour, 2 hours, or whatever. And then, but in your mind, it still kind of registers as fresh. And I don't know, this might be kind of hard to follow if you haven't really experienced the same thing. And let me just reiterate that I'm only speaking for myself. I can't speak for others, but this is just what I experienced. But, so yeah, once I realized if I take a step back, it's really not a big deal. But once I hop back into there, is the desire to want to get the statues, to have a constant discussion about it, and just to feel like you're a part of something bigger, which like it's not inherently bad, but if you do it for a while and you're in it, I guess I don't want to really say the attention, but if you have that close-knit relationship, you're more likely to spend money on things you probably wouldn't have spent money on otherwise. And for some, or maybe even a lot of people, that's a nice thing. That's a cool thing. But for me, it just started to get overwhelming after a while. And I eventually, I started canceling pre-orders that I had, or payment plans that I had, because I just didn't want to deal with them anymore. And that leads it to another thing. Like, the more you want to keep up with the Joneses, that's more money you're spending. And let me get into that. Statues, especially the huge statues, you get the 1/4 scale, even some 1/6 scale. If you get a lot of those, that takes up a lot of space. And I mean a lot of space. And that's probably the biggest reason why I stopped collecting statues with space. But let me focus on money real quick. So yeah, the more statues you get, the more money that you spend. And these statues aren't cheap. And there were some times where, it would nearly rob me of my entire paycheck after the bills. And then, I had to cancel my orders because, listen, I just didn't want to I got tired of spending so much money on all these statues, Especially if you got a lot of them coming in. So, while nowadays, I'm a little bit of a better budgeter. And, at the time, I was also saving up for trips and statues. So, for money, I was a decent budgeter. I could have been a little bit better maybe, but and I'm sorry if this seems all over the place. It's kind of hard for me to plan this stuff out before I make a video, but anyways, what I'm saying is taking trips to various anime conventions was a big thing in my life, and it still is. And it ultimately came down to, do I want to spend my hard-earned money on statues, or do I want to spend my hard-earned money on conventions? And, conventions eventually that won out for me. So that's where I decided to put most of my focus on is on anime conventions, gaming conventions. But like Comic Cons, pop culture stuff like that. So yeah, money was a huge factor, and then there's also the inconvenience. I got these statues, and now I gotta take care of these statues. They get dust. You gotta make sure they're in tip-top order and whatnot. And I'm one to admit I never took care of my statues. The ones I did have, dust accumulated, and I bought some brushes because I thought I could handle the responsibility, but I'm lazy. Okay, I don't want kids because that's an inconvenience. And I thought having a statue and dusting it off and giving it some prep work in that regards, I figured that wouldn't be as much of an inconvenience as something that's worth it. But I just never got around to dusting them, and they collected dust, and they're still collecting dust. I put a lot of them back in their boxes for the most part, but that's a minor thing that came up. This the inconvenience of having to, I guess, maintenance your statues and making sure they're in tip-top shape. Never did that, and I don't intend to. So yeah, horrible, I know, but I'm losing my voice. But now we get into the big reason. The biggest reason why I stopped collecting statues. Of course, time, money, keeping up with the Joneses, stuff like that. Those are big reasons. But I think the number one thing for me was just the lack of space. Yeah, it's because the lack of space is really big. And lately I've been becoming a minimalist. But even before, I've started teetering or playing around with the minimalist lifestyle or looking into it. Just the thought of the statues and buying the statues, it started to take a toll on me. Because I had to try to figure out where to put the statues and how am I going to rotate them in and out. Can I store statues in my garage? And what about the temperature? Will they be fine when it's too cold? Will they be fine if it's too hot outside? And I think that's part of the reason why I started canceling like a pre-order. I had a pre-order, or not a pre-order, but I had a Tekken King statue that I was trying to pay off. And this is out of nowhere, I just kind of felt, I guess, mentally claustrophobic, thinking about, okay, I'm almost done paying the statue off, so it's gonna arrive in the next month or so. How on earth am I gonna store it? And at that time, I had I think 2 other statues, 1/4 scale, and I don't have the biggest room, so it's in my mind, it's just that whole thing. That's where something just in my mind snapped, and it's okay, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to try to find space and then try to arrange them, and God forbid I have to move or evacuate quickly and then have to worry about carrying the statues with me. And then at that point, it was just well, I'm done. I'm done, it was stressful to try to figure out where to put this stuff. And I still think about it to this day. And over the this past New Year, latest New Year, I spent New Year's Eve cleaning up my room just to make it look a little bit neater, because I just got tired of seeing some of the stuff in there. And I had the 1/4 scale Uncharted 4 statue. It's a Sideshow collectible one. It has a Nathan Drake, and he was he's leaping on an enemy, and he's punching him like this. It wasn't really neatly, it wasn't the best statue piece out there, but I like the Uncharted series, so that's why I got it, and I enjoyed it, even though a lot of people thought that the face was off and whatnot. But I was trying to move that statue, and that's a big statue, a lot of pieces, heavy pieces. I ended up scratching the leg when I first got it. So it's just trying to finesse and put all the pieces together. That's an inconvenience, especially of my time. And it's stressful when I'm scratching the leg part. But I was trying to slowly and carefully connect the arms to where it needed to go on the statue to put it up. and whatnot, and the finger snapped off. Yes, Drake's finger. I think it was like this finger. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it was this one. But it's just, I tried to put the pieces in, and I just heard a little sound like that. And that's when I knew I broke something. And at that time, I was just like, okay, I don't even want to super glue this finger back on. I don't even want to deal with this statue. So, like, the very next day, I believe that was like a Sunday, or maybe the day after that. I know it was like a Sunday. I told my sister, like, can we go to the Goodwill? Because, you know, I want to give this statue up. I don't want to try to get it repaired. I don't want to put a little bit of super glue on that finger to fix it. No. I wrapped that thing up in several shoe boxes. I got rid of it, and you know what? I haven't looked back since. Ever since then, I have not regretted giving up that statue, even though I paid like about $300 to $400 for it. And I even look back now, like, I asked myself, well, Rev, do you regret it? And it's like, no. And if I had to do it all over again, if the finger broke all over again, would I have done the same choice? Absolutely. Because we get to a point where you just feel trapped by all these materialistic things, and just it's never enough. That's why I felt so free to have the extra space. If someone else wants to get at a good price, more power to them. At one point, I was just thinking about recording myself smashing it with a bat because I just didn't feel like dealing with it. But then I thought, no, that's just wasteful. We'll let a collector pick it up, scoop it up at the Goodwill. If they like it, cool. If not, whatever. I never went to that Goodwill to check to see how much they were selling it for. I was just so happy that it was gone. And I still have, like, the Uncharted 3 Drake statue. And I chipped a little bit of his hair off. I mean, it's still a decent statue. I like it. And I still have a couple of all of my Resident Evil statues of, like, Chris Redfield and Leon Kennedy. Am I quick to give those up? Or I'm not, let me put it this way, I'm not really fast to give those up. I still like them. They're kind of cool. They're like 1/6 scale. Except for the Drake one, that's 1/4 scale. And, you know, they're up in my closet. They're mostly in boxes and stuff. But, they're out of mind, out of sight. And I'm kind of glad that I don't really have to look at them. Because, you know, at one point, I had so many clothes and stuff. And just stuff in general, I couldn't even close my closet door. Because they're like shutters, I guess. Or just 2 closet doors you close together. But now I can, like, look at my closet door and close it. And I don't have to worry about having as much stuff. And even now, I'm still trying to downsize. I know it's kind of getting off topic, but it's still kind of on topic with statues. It's like the more statues I have, the more responsibility. I have to find a place for them. Got to take care of them. And I just don't really want that responsibility anymore. After that, I kind of navigated my way to just buying more posters and prints. But even then, that's like, even though it saves a lot of space, it's still space that's being taken up in my room. So I'm kind of slowing down on the prints now. And now I'm also into like button pins, or like the enamel pins. I'm like collecting those. But even then, while it's still smaller than a statue, I'm kind of monitoring it because I don't want that to get out of hand too. So I'm not buying as many as I want, or I don't want to say as I'm used to, because I'm not really buying a lot, but like I said, I'm just trying to monitor that as well. So yeah, space is the big thing. I'm just at a point in my life where you really don't need all of this stuff to be happy. And going back to the statue thing, I mean, I just don't think a person, well, at least when I say person, for myself, it may be true for others, but at least for myself, there's always going to be another statue you want. So if you buy this, cool, you'll be fulfilled. It'll be great for a couple of months. You can show off, brag, take pictures, post on forums, post comments and threads on how much this statue means to you, and get like what, eight hearts, 7 likes, or 10 hugs or whatever on Facebook. But you know, I'm just at that point in my life where I'm valuing experiences more than materialistic things. And this also applies to figures as well. Now, are there still figures out there I want? Absolutely. A couple of them. One is I want the Ren figure from like Catherine Full Body, but I'm fine without it. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. But one I really want is the Kirishima figure where he's like posing his stuff. It would be nice to have like a little boxing bag or like a towel in front so it looks like he's like about to knock out the bag or punch the bag or break the towel. I want that. And will I end up getting it? I hope not. It might be like this is one of those splurge things at a convention if I do get it, but thankfully I just haven't had too much of a desire to keep it going because like I said, even the small figures, all that stuff, it takes space. And space is something I'm starting to value more and more as I get older. Yeah, having the money is good to have the vacations and stuff, but you know, just to be able to not have so much clutter around me, that's almost priceless. So yeah, I told y'all I didn't want to keep this video too long, and even though it's over 20 minutes, I think that's still kind of long. I think I've said everything I needed to say on this matter. Now, will I collect statues again in the future? I don't know. I hope not. But that temptation might be there. I might collect a few figures, but for me, in order to do that, I need to downsize a little bit more. I just don't want to add and add without taking something away. So, if I do end up getting that My Hero Academia Kirishima figure, then yeah, I'll probably have to get rid of like two of the statues I have now, or downsize some more clothes, or make some more space somehow, just to have it. But right now, I'm alright. Oh, and then another thing is, my cat gets really jealous. So where my statues or where my figures will be at, she has no problem plopping her big butt down and stretching out like the little fat roly-poly she is and just knocking them down on the ground. I had a Steins Gate figure and she just knocked it to the back of a dresser, and you know, at this point it's like, if I try to get it, she's just gonna knock it down again. So it's like, why even bother? So a piece of Okabe Rentaro is like somewhere at the back of my dresser, and I just don't feel like reaching for them. So yeah, I also have my cat to contend with. I'ma just get love from my cat. So she wants the space on my dresser to sleep. I guess she can have it. But yeah, like I said, this video's gone on long enough. If you guys have any questions, you know, more about why I stopped statue collecting, you know, just feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to them. As long as I can get notifications or as when I check them. For some reason, YouTube doesn't give me the notifications that I think they should be giving me. I don't find out about some comments until after like a month later. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. So if you happen to like this video, or you're a fan of just like video games or conventions, drink tests, taste tests, stuff like that, then feel free to check out the rest of my channel. And if you happen to like what you see, then please leave me a like, comment, share, subscribe. Do what you gotta do, and I'll see you all in the next video. Alright guys, talk to you later. Bye.